can pick out sick people. It does not take long. I know who needs to go back immediately to be seen, and who can sit there for like a week and be just fine. So, but a lot of us look tremendously unhealthy, and as I go along in the grocery store, I look at people's carts, and it begins to make sense when you see what they're consuming, and then you put the picture of what they look like together. So what you are, what you eat, correct? Okay, that used to be a very common thing in medicine, and just socially, people are like, you are what you eat. But right now, we don't look all that great, and what we eat is not all that great for us. So our hope in getting better just with pills or going to see the doctor and a lot of procedures and surgeries is not going to make us better. It actually all comes back down to the food that we're consuming. It's a chemical. The food are chemicals that we put in your body, and if they're not accessible to our body because our body is injured, or because the food that we're eating is not real food, then we're going to run into problems. Okay. And does anybody know what the obesity rate is now?
It's really high.
60, 30%, or
yeah.
no?
It depends where you live in the country. So it's somewhere between 30 is kind of still. It's probably closer to 40 to 60% of the people are obese, and then another portion of the population are morbidly obese. Okay, and then you get into the super morbidly obese. That's a whole other category. So our society is changing because of that. We have rooms, the bariatric rooms in emergency departments or in hospitals, so special equipment so that people don't get injured. There's all kinds of things we're modifying instead of actually changing our diet to deal with the underlying issue. And that's what I'm going to talk about tonight, is actually dealing with the underlying issue for a lot of people. So why is the paleo diet beneficial? Now let's talk about, for a second, number one, a lot of us are already on a gluten-free or casein-free diet. Again, this is just amping that diet up a little bit. And what athletes have found, and athletes are the ones that have tended to utilize this diet first. So a lot of people in the fitness industry, Mike probably knows quite a bit about it, is that because you're removing a lot of the processed foods, your risk of disease, your increased risk, weight loss, you have more energy, your body does not have to work as hard to process whatever you're putting in it. It's much easier. So a lot of the foods that I'm talking about are your fruits and vegetables, very bioavailable as far as nutrients are concerned. And for people that are not already on a gluten-free and casein-free diet, the beauty of just delving into a paleo diet is that you're automatically removing your gluten and your casein, which is those proteins are molecularly very similar. So in order to really get your body healed, you need to remove both of them. That's why a lot of autistic kids are on a gluten-free, casein-free diet.
What is your casein?
That's your dairy protein.
Okay.
So dairy or goat's milk, it's any protein that comes out of a mammal. So goat milk. Unfortunately, I really like goat milk, but it doesn't like me very much. So there's a number of things we could talk about: proteins, amino acids. So our body actually has the enzymes to break down the proteins in things like meat. We break them down into smaller amino acids, and then our body can utilize them. Our bodies do not have any enzymes to break down the proteins in gluten or gliadin, seclin, horridin, which are the green proteins, and sometimes avalin, which is the oat protein. Our bodies just do not have those enzymes to break those proteins down, so they either pass through and don't cause any damage, or at some point there's a trigger event, whether it's chicken pox, or you get pregnant, or you give birth, or you have some other type of viral or bacterial infection. That trigger event can trigger you into the autoimmune component of celiac disease. Now, we talk about being gene positive. Let me just tell you that there's a lot we don't know about gluten intolerance and celiac disease at this point. There's much more that we don't know than we do know. So we're testing for two genes currently, DQ2 and DQ8. However, there's probably about 1,000 other genes associated with celiac disease. We just don't know what they are